In the 1980s, then-President Ronald Reagan's sweeping economic reforms included changes in regulation in children's television. While shows targeted at kids still couldn't include things like the lead character turning to the camera and pitching a sponsor's product, as had been done through the 50s and early 60s, the new regulations did allow for programs based on toy concepts to be created and aired, provided that the advertisements for the related toy line did not air during the shows themselves. The first show to take advantage of this concept was He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, based on Mattel's new fantasy sci-fi toy line in 1983. Rival competitor Hasbro followed a week later with the 5-part G.I. Joe miniseries The Mass Device. From there, the weekly syndicated TV space was awash in toy-based cartoons, a good chunk of which were largely based on Hasbro properties, helped by the fact that Hasbro's own in-house television division, Cluster Productions, had secured a production deal with Sunbow Productions and Marvel Productions, leading to a number of cartoons now considered classics of the 80s, along with many more that never made it beyond maybe a 5-episode miniseries that could later be repackaged as a movie on home video. However, like a lot of nakedly capitalistic moneymakers, the market could only handle so much. Even with audiences being refreshed every couple of years as older kids stopped watching and younger kids got old enough to start becoming steady viewers, there were only so many hours in the day, and even less hours dedicated to kids programming on both the networks and through syndicated programs for local stations. Plus, parental action groups were constantly making noise in the press about the lines between entertainment and advertising being blurred by the toy-centric shows. By the late 80s, there just wasn't room on the schedules for many more of these kinds of programs. One of Hasbro's solutions to this problem was Super Sunday, a syndicated anthology show from 1986 designed to be aired on Sunday mornings, where kids' programming was much more sparse than on other days of the week. The show had 4 segments: Robotics, Bigfoot and the Muscle Machines, Gem, and our final entry for this October edition of It Came From Saturday Morning, Inhumanoids. Each show consisted of 7 or 8 minute segments, usually ending on a cliffhanger, with the resulting run being able to be edited together into a roughly hour to 90-minute movie for the home market, while anything that really seemed to hit big could be expanded into a full series. Only 2 segments from Super Sunday made it that far: Gem and Inhumanoids. Gem was clearly the big winner in this department, going on to not only a full series, but lasting 3 seasons and 65 episodes and a solid entry in pop culture history. Inhumanoids, on the other hand, did not fare as well. The toys, while impressive and standouts on the store shelves, were of a slightly higher price point, especially of the 3 titular Inhumanoids themselves, which led to much lower sales than Hasbro's big boy-based lines, G.I. Joe and Transformers. And because of that, Hasbro decided to pull the plug on the entire line. By this point, however, they had already commissioned Sunbow to produce another 8 episodes of Inhumanoids for the first season, and as a result of said plug being pulled, but the show still being contractually obligated to air, the end result was the creative team being allowed to do almost anything they wanted with little to no oversight. And boy howdy did they dive in with both feet.
Come on, let's get it done. Yeah, baby. Let's get down.
The first 5 episodes, edited together from the Super Sunday segments, formed the initial miniseries titled The Evil That Lies Within. But once word got back to the team that the show was pretty much DOA and wouldn't be getting another season, they broke one of the then cardinal rules of toyetic storytelling. Each of the 13 episodes of Inhumanoids is a chapter in an ongoing story. There are character arcs, cliffhangers, shifting alliances, multiple factions, and limited character development. So how weird did this show get? Well, right from the outset, really. The scientific research team known as EarthCore, which consists of 4 of the manliest super scientists this side of Jonas Venture Sr., discover what they think is an intact dinosaur fossil trapped in amber, but turns out to be an undead horror from within the Earth named Decompose, one of the 3 titular Inhumanoids. This discovery prompts businessman and eye patch enthusiast Blackthorn Shore to find and release another Inhumanoid, Tendril, who promptly frees Decompose, and the 2 in turn free their leader Metlar. EarthCore finds out exactly what the hell is going on from the Redwoods, one of the 3 factions of the Mutors, the other 2 being the Rockmen Granites and the magnetic dual entity Magnacore. Basically, the Inhumanoids ran rampant over the planet thousands of years ago until the Mutors managed to imprison them. Except now they're on the loose, and to make matters worse, Blackthorn uses his connections to spineless Senator Gary Masterson to get EarthCore's funding cut so they can't do anything to stop the Inhumanoids, plus he gets the plans for the team's high-tech exploration suits. Why is he doing this? Because he's an 80s cartoon villain, and as we've established, no matter how elaborate the story, a lot of times bad guys are just bad guys for the sake of being bad guys in shows like this.
Soon the humans will see the horrible truth behind the legend. Soon they shall bow to me.
Fortunately for EarthCorps, Blackthorn's sister Sandra is a lot less evil and doesn't really care for eye patches, so she uses her own money to bankroll EarthCorps and joins up to fight the Inhumanoid threat. At the conclusion of the original run for Super Sunday, the three Inhumanoids were defeated and Blackthorn sent to prison. There was, of course, a cliffhanger implying a section of Tendril was still slithering around, which meant that when Episode 5 aired, the Inhumanoids were freed, Blackthorn escaped from prison, and his cellmate, Dr. Herman Mangler, is melted by toxic waste. Wait, what? Yeah, this show went hard, folks. Characters were turned into undead minions by Decompose. Hell, it happened to Sandra twice over the course of the series. Manglar wound up being rebuilt into an undead horror named Nightcrawler, and he and Blackthorn would make alliances with and double-cross the Inhumanoids, the Mutors, EarthCorps, and each other at the drop of a hat. Same for all the characters, really. There were multiple threats to kill each other. The members of EarthCorps seemed to really not like each other all that much. And there was some weird Cold War politics brought in when the Inhumanoids invade Russia and steal some missiles to wipe out the surface population, and Russia planned retaliation in a later episode with a plan that would wind up destroying the planet if EarthCorps and new ally Tankmaster hadn't gotten involved. In fact, there's a lot of politics and satire in this show, which makes me question head writer Flint Dilley's own political views just a little bit. Because politicians and celebrities are made out to be nothing but useless blocks to the real heroes being able to go in and get things done. Like, a lot.
Tell me if I'm out of line, but I think we must negotiate with Medlar for his release.
Negotiate? This is how you negotiate!
Now let's meet the brave members of the Masterson team. Good to see you again, Senator Masterson.
It's good to be here, Hector, and just let me say how proud I am to be an American.
Here we have Hollywood's top leading man, Dusty Aykroyd.
As soon as we bring Lady Liberty back, I'm gonna turn my true feelings and emotions into a heartfelt artistic statement.
And there's no mistaking the former heavyweight champ of the world, Smokin' Joe Abdullah.
Miller, I want you. I'm gonna take the fight right at you. 3 rounds. I'm gonna knock you out. 3 rounds.
And here we have the famed film director, George Landisberg.
I think we have a tender love story here, Hector, and I really want to explore its inner meaning.
I'm sure you will, George.
Congressman Gary Lund, who describes himself as a conservative liberal. George Schrum, who calls himself a liberal conservative. And Senator Wilfred Masterson, who has yet to commit to a platform.
With all due respect, Mr. Knight, I like to consider myself both a conservative liberal and a liberal conservative. What a jerk!
It just gives the show a really weird vibe, which is saying something because as the show goes on, it gets really out there. I mean, one episode has the Inhumanoids getting blasted with an experimental compound that basically turns out to be a love potion. No, I'm not kidding.
My lady, I can hear your sweet voice calling me.
For some reason, I'd be more comfortable if they were attacking.
And it gets even weirder after that, because, as I said, this show has an ongoing story through all 13 episodes. As in, anything that isn't resolved in one episode is still there when the next one starts.
Medlar, turn down the heat. Say, why don't we ever go anywhere? You never take me anyplace nice. This place is a dump.
If it seems like I'm glossing over things, it's because there is a lot that happens over these 13 episodes, and we only have so much time here. Endless alliances, double crosses, and an ever-expanding lore. Two new Inhumanoids, Gagoyle and Slither, are added near the end of the series, with Gagoyle seemingly killed by Metlar, and Slither just vanishing. There are just a ton of characters here, and the final episode seems rushed as hell, which might be because the scripts were already written before word came down that Hasbro wasn't moving forward with the franchise, and they had to provide some kind of climactic finish to the whole thing. We literally go through an entire presidential election campaign up to and including the election itself in the first 10 minutes of the final episode before things explode in an all-out war between the Inhumanoids, Earth Corps, the military, the Mutors, Blackthorn, and Nightcrawler in the remainder of the episode. And in true pulp adventure style, it ends on a cliffhanger because the Inhumanoids managed to escape, presumably to return in future episodes that never happened. So is this series any good? Yeah, in a really messy way. There's too many characters, too many factions, the political and media satire ranges from pointed to goofy at times, and the personalities of the Earth Corps team makes it really hard to like them. I mean, I haven't really bothered to identify them by their individual names because, aside from the voices and the gimmicks in their suits, there really isn't a lot of difference between them. That said, however, this show is a great example of those rare times executive meddling was kept to a minimum and the creative team was allowed to push the limits of what could be done with a kid's cartoon of the era. Inhumanoids is dark, violent, often terrifying, and frequently goofy, but the one thing that it isn't is boring. There was a DVD release of both the original miniseries and the series as a whole, but those have been long out of print. But, of course, the series is available on YouTube, and yes, there's a link in the description to a complete playlist. If you thought all toy-based cartoons were largely the same, or if you just like weird pulp adventure and giant monsters, give Inhumanoids a try and count how many times you utter an expression of disbelief that something on screen was actually allowed to be aired on an 80s kids show. On Sunday, no less. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this foray into monster cartoons of yesteryear, and if you liked what you saw, let me know in the comments. We might just make this a yearly thing if enough people liked it. Happy Halloween, everybody!
I see 10 little has grown no more intelligent in my absence.
Inhumanoids! Inhumanoids!
The evil that lies within. Down in the fiery depths of the earth where nightmares begin.
Inhumanoids! Inhumanoids!
The evil that lies within.